About 24, 48 hours ago or so, John Wagner from USA Today wrote long-term care insurance, peace of mind at a price. Well, it is Wednesday, and that's when we bring Lyn Rowe, certified financial planner on and long-term care strategist and specialist. Lyn, thanks for joining me.
Thank you,
as
Ray.
you do each week. Before we get to what's on your mind,
Yes.
let me quote from John Wagner and see if you agree.
Okay.
He says about 70% of all retirees need long-term care at some point, although that includes help from family and friends, as well as assisted living and nursing homes. And about 2/3 of that long-term care comes from family members. Now, you have some do's and don'ts. One of your don'ts, I understand, is don't rely on your family members because they may not be there, available, qualified, or able to render you the care, correct?
Absolutely. It's unconscionable, in my estimation, to assume that your family members are going to be your caregivers. But that said, just be practical about it. If, for example, if your wife is, say, 4 or 5 inches shorter than you and she weighs anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds less than you do, how realistic is it to expect her to pick you up when you're dead weight, out of the bed, onto the wheelchair, get you into the commode, onto the commode? How is that going to work for her?
I don't want my wife anywhere near me in the commode, okay? So let's leave that one at that. Here's what else he says. Thank you very much. Men typically need 2.2 years of assistance, while women need an average of 3.7 years, and the average cost for assisted living, this isn't like nursing home, just assisted living, $3,022 a month. I suspect where we live it's even higher. But that's $36,000 per year just for someone to help out around the house.
That's exactly right. And I always tell people, when you're talking about self-insuring, do assume that that means that the goal that you set for your retirement income will need to about double when you need care.
The full-scale nursing home, as we've talked many times, runs about $85,000 and change in our local area, maybe a little bit higher than that. But there are some places you can go where it's less. But I think you've got to figure in a nursing home, you're talking about 2.2 to call it 4 years. If you average 3 years, that's $250,000 right there.
Exactly right. And one of the things, here's one of the chief flaws in the planning when people say, well, I can take the money out of my retirement account. Remember that when you take $1 out of your retirement account, you have to pay taxes. So for every $1 you're going to pay what? Another 30? 50,
At least,
60 cents?
yeah, it depends on what your tax bracket is.
Exactly. So that means that your $80,000 bill in a long-term care facility is really going to be what?
Well, it could be $120,000. It depends
Exactly.
on how much of the long-term care that you're providing is tax deductible.
Right.
Because you will get some tax benefits.
That's correct.
But the rules have changed on that, by the way, as well, because if you're under the age of 65, you've got to exceed 10% of your adjusted gross income. If you're over age 65, the first 7.5% you don't get to deduct. But it's certainly an expense. Even if you didn't factor in the taxes, having to come up with $250,000 or more for long-term care, whether it's pre-tax or post-tax, is still a ton of money, especially when you consider the fact that other health care expenses will run in the neighborhood of an equal amount. According to Fidelity, the most recent numbers from Fidelity were $220,000. And that depends on, normal life expectancy. Many of us will be living beyond normal life expectancy.
It's not uncommon for someone who is retired to have a 3 to 4 digit a month prescription bill.
Now, what Wagner says here, and it's so true, is, there are a lot of people that just are averse to buying any kind of insurance, but it's usually because of the price. Mm-hmm. And so can you just talk about some techniques that people can use to figure out how to pay for this stuff? Because I've never met anybody that said, nope, I'm just morally opposed to buying long-term care insurance. I've never met anybody that said that. I've met some people that have said, I am opposed to paying for it, but not opposed to owning it.
Yes. If someone paid for it for you, you'd probably take it. In fact, that's one of the points that I wanted to make. A lot of times, for example, I have clients who have children paying the long-term care premiums because they know that they're protecting their mom in the event that she needs that care, but they're also protecting themselves because it means that they are going to know for certain that she's going to have quality care because they can hire the professionals and they can still keep their jobs.
Now, on the subject, though, of paying for it,
Getting the cost
there's
down.
got to be ways
Yes.
to make this affordable for people. I know one of the areas of expertise that you have is to try to mold the policy and the premiums into something that almost anybody can afford,
Right.
unless you're indigent, and then you do get Medicaid. But we should point out that most people listening to this program and watching me on television and Lyn Rowe on TV, you're not going to get any help from the government for long-term care.
No, not unless you have spent down every penny to about $2,000, which most people are averse to doing.
Okay, so maybe you've got $200,000 in your
Yeah.
401k, you've got $50,000 in your brokerage account. I mean, you're in Middle America. Most people over age 55 have somewhere around $250,000 amass. That money's going to be gone
Exactly.
if one or the other, husband or wife, ends up in a nursing home. So buying the long-term care insurance, obviously the earlier you get it, the cheaper it is. But what kind of things can you recommend people do to sort of manipulate the numbers?
Well, we've looked at things like shortening the benefit periods for, say, the husband, because as you pointed out, the statistics say that he will need less care than the wife. So we can extend the benefit period for the wife and shorten it for the husband. We can extend that elimination period, which is like your deductible on your auto policy. I mean, think about it. When you buy the health insurance or the auto policy, one of the ways you get your premiums down is to increase the deductible.
Well, that's certainly not worked with Obamacare. The deductibles have gone up and the premiums have gone up, but that's a whole other story.
Yes.
But you are correct. Obviously, the sooner you tap into the policy benefits, the more expensive the policy is. The more you can self-insure. And one of the things that you recommended, along with my pal Terry, years ago when I bought my policy, was that Jeannie and I chose to self-insure about 10 or 20% of the benefit amount.
That's another way.
We didn't extend the waiting period or the
Right.
elimination period. What we said is, well, you know what, we'll insure $20 or $30 a day.
Exactly. So in other words, you self-insured for a portion of that bill.
Yeah, and that's really kind of key. And this is why when you do financial planning, you need to have somebody that's going to get into the nitty-gritty of all this stuff. Instead of just throw the numbers out, well, here's what it costs. What it costs for what? You've got all these different issues. You've got inflation riders. What inflation rider do you put on this policy? Deductibles, daily benefits, maximum benefits, what it takes to qualify for benefits. And you have to evaluate those with a pro, which is why I have a pro on with me every single Wednesday. That would be you, by the way.
That would be me.
Yeah, so give out your info if people want to get started, at least exploring how long-term care could benefit them.
That would be 877-270-3127, and operators are standing by.
877-270-3127 or iwantmyltc.com. Lyn Rowe, thank you. See
Have a
you next
wonderful day.
time. You too. 877-Planner if you want to chat with moi. And we'll check in with Butterfield and we'll talk about retiring and taking an income stream from your investments. That's next.